Hello, I am Eleonora and I am the founder and designer at Vectorialism. In our studio, we work mainly with digital fabrication, and to create our designs and check the designs that are coming from other designers, we prefer to use open source software. So in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you the basics of Inkscape. Inkscape is a free and open source software for vector design, and it's best known for its use in artistic design or illustration, but I'm going to show you how to use this software for technical drawing, for digital fabrication, and to create your projects.
Let's have a look at the Inkscape interface. If you ever used other graphic design softwares, you will notice that there are some difference in this interface, but it's not difficult at all. So, the first thing that we have to do is to change the document properties. So we go to File, Document Properties, and you see that this window on the side of the screen pops up. So, if we got our documents set to pixels, which is the default when you install this software, you have to change it to millimeters. Because pixels, it's okay if we are working for web design, for example, but it's not right if we are working for digital fabrication or something that has to go real, like for example, if we want to print something. You will see that there is also centimeters, but usually even if you are working on something big, like printing a billboard or something like that, it's common to use millimeters. Then of course, if you are working in the imperial unit system, you should select inches. So now we select millimeters. And you will notice that also the rulers on top of my screen changed when I changed the unit. So this is one important thing that we have to do every time we create a new document, just to be sure to work in the right environment. So, we talked about the rulers, but we also have our toolbar where we have our instruments to draw and to select. Then we have a status bar that gives to us useful information about the objects that we have on the screen, the selection, and so on, and also gives to us information about the fill and the stroke. Then the useful color palette, which let us change in a quick way the colors. So for example, let's go on the toolbar and I can start to draw a rectangle. And I can change the color going here on the color palette. And then you will notice that if I select, the status bar will tell me that I selected a rectangle in the layer number 1, and then gives to me the information about the color, the fill and the stroke. This whole space that we see here, it's the canvas, and of course I can also draw here in this part, but just everything that it's included in this rectangle, in this area, will be exported and saved in other formats. This area is the page, so everything that will be contained in this page will be exported. And of course I can choose the size of the page that I prefer to use. For example, we have some standard formats like A4, or A0, and also the video formats. So since we are working with video and I want to use the biggest size possible, I choose this option. Then of course I can also personalize this. So you saw that I just draw a quick rectangle shape in order to show you something. But let's have a look now at the tools that we have in our toolbox here. So we got the selector tool, that it speaks by itself, of course. With that you can select what you have on the screen. And you see that I can select, and if I click and drag I can move it around. And also you will notice all of these arrows here. And these are useful to resize my object in both directions or just in one. Then just after the selector tool I have the node selection tool, and let's see what happens. You see that the icons on the corner of the rectangle are changed, and if I click on this round corner here, I can round all of the corners of the rectangle until make it really round, something like a pea. Or I can choose the radius. In order to show to you the next tool, so the edit nodes tool, I'm going to design something with this other tool that we will see later in detail. So this is something like a pen, and I can draw something like this. Something, I don't know what it's supposed to be. Let's have a look at this node selection tool. You will see that now it highlighted for me all of the nodes in this shape, and I can click and drag and modify it. So I can change my shape just clicking and dragging all the nodes. To modify the rectangle, I should go to Path, Object to Path. And you will see that now I have all of the nodes that are selectable. And I can click and drag with the selection tool and obtain something different. Then I have the circle and ellipse tool. And of course with this tool I can design something like this. If I go on this round handle here, I can modify the shape in order to obtain an arc. I can stretch it. Then using the Edit Node tools, I can change it again in order to have something like a cake or something like a diagram. Now that I designed the arc, if I click on the circle tool again, you will see here that I have other options. If it's an arc or it's a chord, so a closed shape, or if it's something like a slice, so something like Pac-Man. And you see, my shapes changes, and I can also come back to the ellipse. Our design tool, which of course it's useful not only for design stars, but I can also design polygons. If I choose the polygon icon here, I can design something, and then I can change the number of corners, choose if I want it rounded or not. And so this is really helpful when we have to design a project. Other basic design tools are the Draw Bezier tool and the freehand drawing tool, which is something like a pencil. So let's have a look at those two tools. So the freehand draw tools looks like a pencil, and that's exactly what it is. I can design free shapes just clicking, so something like a pen on paper. Of course, it's gonna be easier to design something when we have like a graphic tablet and a pen. With the mouse, it's not so easy. Let's see, for example, I try to design an art now. Yeah, of course, it looks quite bad. And now you see that if I use the node tool, I can see all of the nodes and be free to modify them. But what we see is that this design, it's really shaky, it's really imprecise. So now let's have a look at this other tool, the Draw Bezier Curves tool. This is not actually like a pen, but it's more like a technical drawing tool. So for example, I click here, then I move my mouse and I click again here, and then I click here and I keep clicking. If my mouse button is still down, you see that now I can drag these handles that will change my curve. And then I can click here and draw another curve like this. Then I click here again, and you see that it's like I have a half of the heart, which is not so precise now, but it's better, it's less shaky than the first one. So I click here again and another curve. I click here again and then I join. You see that there is this snap. If I go close to this node, I have a snap. I click enter and now I have a heart, which is not good at all because I'm not good at drawing, but you can see the differences between that one that we draw freehand and the one that we draw with the giving just geometric information to the software. So which tool is better? It depends on what you have to draw, because of course if you are into sketching or if you are into lettering, Of course, the freehand tool could be better, but if you already have in mind what you want to design, it's better to use the Bezier curve tool. And it's also possible sometimes to design something freehand on one layer, then go to another layer and design again following the lines, but using the Bezier tool or other geometric tool. So it's like creating a draft. You create something with your freehand tool and then recreate it again with more precise instruments. How do Bezier curves work? It's not so easy sometimes to understand it, but it's like if we click and just move the mouse and then strongly click again, we create some straight lines. But if we click and keep clicking, we have those two handles which give to us a rotation for the curve. So sometimes it's difficult to control and to know what to expect for this kind of drawing. For me, it's easy to imagine like if I have a rope and a couple of sticks that will hold the rope in one place and then to another. It gives to me an idea on how the Bezier curve will work. But it's something quite complex, and for this course, on a basic level, I tend to say just play with it, just try, and with the experience you will understand how it works. Sometimes it's more difficult to explain how it works than just do it. So now let's have a look at the colors. If I see the shapes that I design here, I can see that they have only one black outline. And as I said before, if you look on the status bar, you will see information about the colors of our shapes. So for example, it says fill none. It means that this shape is like clear on the inside, transparent, no color at all. And stroke, black. I can click on the color palette and by default it can give me a fill color. So now my shape is no more transparent because it has a color on the inside. But if I go in the fill and color menu, I can have more details about this object. So for example, fill, and here we can see that I have so many options, like no paint, so going back like at the beginning, flat color, then I can have some gradients tool, which we will not use this because it's not useful for digital fabrication. It's commonly used for art design and illustrations. Then I have patterns and other options. But let's focus on the basic. If I go to the stroke paint, I can see that I have the option for the strokes, so the lines that define my shape. And I can set this to no or to flat. And I can change the color, for example, from black to red. It's quite difficult to see because the stroke it's really thin. But if I go to the stroke style, I can change the parameters for this. So I can use a stroke that it's more thick, and now it's better because I can see that my stroke it's more visible. And of course, if this thing is still on pixels, it's better to move to millimeters once again. Then I have also some information about creating dashed lines. I can choose the type, the kind of lines that I want to use. So dashed or dotted. But as I said, we will focus on the basic tools, which are the ones that are used for digital fabrication, and then we are going on seeing in details everything that we need. What we can notice when we go to this menu, it's the color selections that we have. So, for example, we have CMYK, the colors for printing, then the other sliders commonly used in graphic design. But what we can notice is that every time we have an extra channel, an extra options. And for example, CMYK should be 4 colors, but we have 5. And RGB, which is commonly used for video graphic design, we should have 3 colors, but we have 4. So we have all of red, green, blue, and then this A. What is this A for? This is for alpha, so it means the transparency or the opacity of our color. So for example, if I want my field to be blue, of course I can move all of the sliders to 0 and just have the maximum for blue, which in this scale is 255. And then I have this alpha. If I move down my alpha, you can see that the color is changing, but it's not the color itself. It's not just the appearance. It's the opacity of the color. So you can see that I can see the objects that are beneath this shape. If I move my alpha to 100%, once again, the color will be solid. And it is important to always be sure that this alpha is set to 100 if we are working for digital fabrication. One thing that we can do if we want to simplify something that we designed with our freehand tool is to use the simplify function. So we go to the node selection tool, we click on the object that we want to simplify, and then we go to path, simplify. And you see that the number of nodes is really reduced now. So it means that our design is more simple. So this is a quick way if we want to have a smoother line of our drawing. Now let's see what we can do with groups and other advanced functions for the shapes tool. So let's say that I have a set of shapes that should be together. With the selector tool, I can select one by one, or if I click Shift, I can add all of the shapes that I want to the selection. I can also, of course, click and drag and select everything. But what if I don't want to do this every time and I want this selection to be permanent? I can go to Object, Group, or Ctrl G, and you see that now those shapes are together. And if I want to split them again, of course I can go to Object, Ungroup, and now I am free to modify my selection. Now I want to group it again. So now that I have a group, it's easier for me, of course, to move it around, having all together. What if I want to put it in a precise position relative to another object? So I can go to Object, Align, and Distribute, and you see that this menu comes out. So I can just select my group and this shape, and then I can have some options here. So I can choose to align my object relative to the selection area. And you see that I can move them in a really precise position. For example, I can center my group of circles vertically and horizontally for this rectangle. But what if I want to select and align my shapes to the whole area of my design, so to my page? So I can just select Page here, and you will see that all of the objects are moving and that they are centered in the page. Here you have a lot of options, like it's typical in Inkscape. Like you can choose to align one object to the last one selected, or to the first one, to the biggest one, the smallest one. And then also, when you have many objects, you can also choose to distribute the space between one and another. Then there are also some automatic functions of Inkscape, like rearrange the objects. Let's have a look at some advanced function that we can do with shapes. So, for example, I can design something like this, then something like this, and I can group them, Ctrl G, but as you can see, those are still three different shapes, not combined together. They are just grouped together. If I ungroup, I can go and see the function that I can do in order to combine different shapes in my design. So I can go to Path and choose Path Union. And now what you can see, it's that I have one single complex shape that I create from simple shapes that I had. I can also create something that is the opposite of this. I can create something with a hole. So I select design two shapes, two circles, and I go to Path, Difference. And what you can see here is that I have a shape with a hole. There are different combinations that I can use. Let's see what happens. For example, I just designed two random shapes. I select them all, and then I can do Path, Intersection, and I get, you see, only the section that was common between the two ellipses. Undo, intersection, and now let's see let's try the other one. Path exclusion, and you see this is just the opposite. And now division, it just cut everything else compared to the area of the first shape. Path, combine, and then path, break apart, of course gives me back then I also can use path, cut path. So I have the shape that it has been cut along the other shape. So let's see this one, because I think this could be useful. So I create one shape like this, and then another shape like this. I select them all, and then path, cut path. And you see that it has been cut. So now that we know how to work with shapes and lines, and we know the basic design tool, I think it's time that we can start a mini project with Inkscape. So what about the trash bin cap that we designed in order to help people recycle the right stuff in the right trash can? You can find more information about this project and see the final results in the Jobs of the Future page. But let's see now how we can design this. So I create a new file. One thing that I can do is to change my page size in order to have the size of the material that I'm going to use to produce this cap. So I'm going to File, Document Properties, and I can choose another size, another format for my page, which is not in the video section, but it's about paper. So maybe we will create this cap in cardboard. So I should choose a standard cardboard size. Could be like this, a B1 size, 70 per 100 centimeters. So now I have a bigger page. So how to design this object? I started measuring the size of an aluminium can and of some small plastic bottles, like the half-liter plastic bottles or soda bottles that you can commonly find in stores and vending machines. And I measured that 7 centimeters diameter should be enough for every bottle to enter, because aluminium cans are standard size, but plastic bottles sometimes they have some difference in shape, in contour, and so 7 centimeters should work fine. So I can start to design the circle, the inner circle where the cans and the bottles should be inserted. If I click Ctrl while dragging my circle, I will obtain a perfect circle, so not an ellipse, but a perfect circle. And here you can see that while I changed my document unit, for this shape, the pixel unit came back. So what I have to do is to switch again to millimeters. And then I can enter here the size that I want. So this is about the radius, not the diameter. So if it's 7 centimeters diameter, I should write here 35. And also here 35. Now I have a circle. Since we are now ready for digital fabrication almost, I don't need any fill, and I think it's better also for you if I remove this fill in order to have a cleaner appearance. And I can also have some all red stroke. Then I measured with a meter my trash bin, the bin that I want to modify. The outer part of the bin measured 35 centimeters, so I'm going to design another circle. And this time I'm going to write 175 and 175. Then, as we learned, I'm going to arrange and align those two shapes, like align, vertical center and horizontal center. Then I can zoom to all the objects of my design. If you want to be sure about the size, now that we designed the circle, we can go to check it here with a ruler or with this information here. Once again, we have to switch to millimeters, and you see that we also have this information. I check also this one, while this one, it has those decimal point something. Why is that? Even if I wrote a precise number, what I see here is the stroke, is the thickness of the stroke that I choose to apply. Since we are going to design something quite big, we don't care about these little differences, and this is how Inkscape works. If I apply a thicker stroke to a path, it will influence the size of my object, but there's no need to correct it right away. Now I can group those two circles, and then I'm going to design some handles or something that I can move around the actual bin in order to fix this circle that it's gonna be made in cardboard and keep it in place. So I thought about designing some rectangular part that I'm going to fold a little bit in order to hold the position of the bin. So I can just design a rectangle, then copy it, Ctrl C, Ctrl V to paste it, and then I can have two rectangles. And I'm going to align those between themselves. So move to center like this, not of the page but center of the selection. So align again. So what you can see now is that those two rectangles are in different position from the center of my circles. So how can I put them in the same position? There are several workarounds to do this. You can build the constructions lines, or you can set a numeric distance, but I will show you now one of the more simple way to do it, that it's also easy for what we saw before in this tutorial. So now I have my group, and I see that as I said before, the dimension of this is 35 centimeters. So I'm just going to design another circle, always clicking Ctrl, so it should be a real circle. And instead of working with radius, now I can change it after I design it. So here I can see the overall dimension of this, so this means the diameter. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller of the outside circle, so let's say 32 and 32 here. You see now that I wrote this dimension twice, but what happens if I click on this locker here? If this icon is locked, I can change just one dimension, for example 310, and you see that also the other dimension changed. So it means that the aspect ratio of the shape is always sure. So now that I have my circle, I'm going to change the stroke color just to see the difference from what I designed before. So this will be my construction line, and I'm going to align it to the center like this. So now that I have this circle that works as a construction line, I can simply select a rectangle and a circle, and then I'm going to align, selecting the biggest object, and then I can choose the right one. The same thing on the other side. I can delete my blue circle, and now I have my group, which I can ungroup, and then I can work to join these rectangles to the biggest circle. Select all of the shapes, and then I'm going to path and click union. Now you see, I have this complex shape. What I can see now by looking at this shape is that those two rectangular parts are a little bit too long for my needs. So I can just use the measuring tool in order to check. And it's actually more than 16 centimeters, so yeah, it's too long for my needs. So what I can do now is using the edit nodes tool and click here and here until I select those two nodes. And then if I want to move it precisely, I can hold down on my keyboard Shift and then the arrow key. 1, 2, 3. And then I can do the same on the other part. Select the nodes, then hold down the Shift. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now I can verify with my measure tool. So now I want to create some crease here, some lines that will help me to fold a little bit this long part in order to put it better on my recycle bin. My idea is to draw a rectangle, no matter the height, but I can choose the other dimensions. So I can switch off the locker and let's say that it should be 80 millimeters. And now I want another rectangle to be wide, maybe 85. Millimeters. So what I will do now is to select the two rectangles and then align them like this. And align them to the bigger object like this. So now I select one rectangle, my main shape, and I do path, cut path. And once again I select the rectangle, my main shape, on this side, and I do path, cut path. Let's zoom this part. This part is divided from the rest, and also this part. And then I have this small part here. So if now I click on my line tool and I move around here, you will see that I have some snaps. This is the end point of one path. So I click and then I click to the other, and I have one line. Enter, other anchor points, the other end point. So these are the lines that I will use to crease, to fold my object, and I will do the same on the other part. So I will create a rectangle, 80 millimeters, another rectangle, 85. Select them all, align to the left, then select the main shape, align to the left. Now I can select them all once again. path, cut path. Oops. You see now, so now I can select one and the main shape and do path, cut path. Then again, path, cut. Oops, something went wrong. So select this and this. So this happened because now I don't have a whole object, but I have one and another one. They are not joined together as a single object. So what I can do is to copy this for the near future and then select this rectangle and this part and choose path and cut. Okay. Then I will paste my rectangle and put it in place once again. Just move it here and then select this and align it. Oops. You see now that I should select not the biggest object, because now the biggest object is the rectangle, but I should select smallest object. So, and I click on the rectangle, and now this lower part, and once again cut. So what we have now is the same thing that we had on the other side. So I click on the line tool and I'm looking for the node here, here. Enter. Okay. Done. Great. So as I said at the beginning, this is just an idea. You can achieve the same results doing in different ways. This is just an idea for me to show you what you can do also with easy commands and easy shape tools, really basic. Now let's see something more complex. For example, let's use the text tool. With the text tool you can click and start to write, or you can click and drag and you will obtain a text box like what we can do with text. You can do the same thing that you can do with every shape. And of course you can select your text and change the font. But the best thing is that we can align the text and create the text on a path. Let's create something that will decorate but also gives instructions for our recycle bin. So I can design a circle, click and Control and I have this perfect circle. Maybe it should be bigger. Okay. I should align it with this. So once again I select to align to the smallest object, so the red circle on the inner part. So let's write something to give information for our bean cap. So I click here and I can write cans and plastic bottles only. And then I can change the font. I can make it a little bit bigger. Now I select the text, and then I also select my blue circle here, and I can do text, put on path, and you see, now I have these results. But what if I want to rotate it? Because you see, it's not centered with those side parts. Now with the selector tool, if I select this, you will see that I have the arrows for stretch. But if I click once again in the area of the object, you see that the arrows are changed. So now I can rotate my object, but I can rotate it, but it's on a strange axis. It doesn't follow anymore the axis of my blue circle. So undo. What should I do now is to select this small cross here and move it to the center. So now if I rotate this, I can have my text starting from the center. Okay, so now we have our object with the instructions written here on text. But let's say that we want to add a pictogram or a logo on this design in order to make it more rich. Let's say that one of our friends designed our logo, but he designed it in Photoshop and saved it as a JPEG file, so a bitmap. We can anyway import it and place it here. And we can clearly see that it's a bitmap because if we zoom, you see that it's all out of focus. Anyway, with Inkscape we can transform this design from JPEG bitmap image to a vector design. So we should go to Path, Trace Bitmap. And you see here that we have some options. The brightness cutoff is the best option that I suggest you to use. It's a simple way of tracing that skips the light colors and will understand which part is white, which part is black, and then it will create a single path that is your image, so a single vector part. Anyway, aside from this mode, we have some options. For example, we have the brightness threshold, which it works like contrast. It gives information about what is the white part and which one should be black. For example, if I change this value here, you see that also I obtain a different result. Every time you play with these options, you have to click on update, because there is no automatic preview. The fastest way is to play around with those values, with those numbers, and see what happens. So this is like the contrast part of our image, while these options, it will ignore the small spots, so the single pixels in your image. It's useful to create a smoother path that we can use with Inkscape. Let's see what happens now. I can click on apply, and it seems that almost nothing has changed, but actually I also have a vector here. Beneath this one is my image, and on top of that I have my vector. I can zoom in and I can see that it's no longer out of focus, because of course it's a vector. We should remove our construction line here, but if we remove this circle, also our text will change its position, because those two are linked together. What I can do is revert the text to path, and I can do this doing path, object to path. And now I can remove my circle. It is also important to convert the text when you send the file to another machine, because maybe the other machine doesn't have the same fonts that you used installed. So no matter if you put the text on a path, but you should always convert your text to another path in order to avoid fonts problems. Of course, when you do this operation, then again you cannot modify your text. To send the file to the laser cutter, we have to do some other things. There is a way to check if our design is made properly, which is showing just the path without any kind of style. So we just go to View, Display Mode, Outline. And you see now that here I only see some black lines with no style at all that gave me information just about the path without any color or any filter applied to this. And now anyway I'm sure that my design is ready to be set up for the laser. So I can do once again display mode, go back to normal. Every laser cutter works with colors, so every color tells to the machine what the machine has to do. There is a color to cut out, there is a color to engrave images, there is a color to do vector engraving. So now I am going to change the colors for my laser cutter. Then, of course, every system will be different. For my laser cutter, the cut lines should be blue RGB. So I select everything that it's red. So no fill at all. Stroke paint, I should put blue 255. So this is the value for the RGB blue. And of course I forgot something, so I go again. Those two small parts here. Once again, 0255. Then I have those two lines that should help me to fold this part. It will be a vector line made by the laser but not passing from part to part. I choose another color, and in my case this will be red. So RGB red. And now I have my logo and my text. So I want to give to these two different styles. So for this one, fill and stroke, I choose no fill at all, but I apply some stroke. So another color, because I want another intensity for my vector engraving. I have just this image, which is okay to leave black, because I will do this with another way of engraving, which we call raster engraving, which is good for images. So now my file is ready for the laser cutter. I can export it, and it's just File, Save As. The best format to export is Inkscape SVG. No other options to select. As you can see, Inkscape saves in a lot of formats. Some of them are quite standard, like for example DXF or EPS file, but they have some limitation from time to time when you export in this kind of format, so it's better to always choose Inkscape SVG. Then save, and that's it. We have done.
So we just seen how to create a simple project using just the basic tools of this software. As an open source software, Inkscape has a lot of documentation and guides that you can easily find online and improve your knowledge of this software easily. If you have any comment or ideas that you want to share, just do it on the Jobs of the Future channel, the website and Instagram.